All right, ClickML team. Firstly, I'm just going to introduce the video. So this is going to be the first of 5 videos where I do book recommendations. And as we get started, firstly, I want to thank you for being here with us at ClickML and in the internship. I really value the effort and the time that you sacrifice, which will be a topic in our books, but the time that you commit to learning and working and spending with me and the rest of the team. And I've had a couple of requests from different interns and past interns now too on book recommendations. And so I've taken some time and I put together a list of recommendations in order, and they're going to go in this order. Okay, so the 5 videos, the first video, and I know you guys have all heard me talk about it, is going to be how to think and mental models. And that's going to be this video. And I'll break these down through the videos, but how to think. The second one is going to be strategic thinking. So that one is going to focus in specifically on creating strategy out of a functional way of thinking. The third is human nature, understanding how people work. The fourth video will be natural law and growth. How does growth work? And lastly, it will be communication. So what I want to do is I want to just briefly break down that structure so that you understand why I have chosen those 5 videos and books to recommend to you on it. So firstly, as I'm sure you've heard me talk about, I already know, and if you're in the internship or if you're here at ClickML, you know that I already know that you're passionate about your relationship with God. You're passionate about reaching the lost, starting your own ministries and marketplace ministries and helping churches reach people. You already have all of the kind of spiritual elements of someone who's really pursuing a relationship with God. And so I'm not teaching you those things. Those are very important. And I obviously pursue my own relationship with God. The purpose of this internship and working at ClickML is about functionality, and it's about getting results. And so the order in which I have put things is the most effective worldly way that I have found to get results, whether it's for clients or for your own ministry or business or whatever it is you're doing. That's what we want to do here at ClickML. Is we want to prepare you to get results in the most effective way possible as you go out into your life. So with that, the first list is how to think. If you don't know how to think effectively, you can't do anything effectively, because all of your behaviors come out of your beliefs and your thoughts. So very much like a computer, we all have beliefs. They're called axioms. Okay, axiomatic beliefs are your most basic assessments and assumptions about how the world works. If you think the sky is purple and you run around on a daily basis, people are going to think you're crazy. It's not going to work. And we have a lot of false beliefs in ministry about how the world works, not necessarily about the Bible, but about how the world works. And when we try to do marketing, when we try to do business, when we try to do anything, it doesn't work. And we're met with a lot of resistance and a lot of failure because we don't know how to think accurately about the world and about life. And so mental models and how to think is this video. Secondly, strategic thinking is how to think and take time into consideration and how to choose the things that are important and set your vision and your mission and your goals. And all of those things are involved in strategy. If you don't have a strategy, you can think clearly, you just won't get anywhere. So strategy sets the direction of whatever it is you're doing. And that is kind of an extension of thinking clearly. Now, in strategic thinking, in order to think strategically, you have to know 2 things. You have to know how to understand human nature and how to understand the natural world that God created that is orderly and operates based on laws and rules and principles. Okay. If you understand human nature, you're capable of projecting into the future what is the most likely scenario to happen when you do something how people react to that, because you know human nature. You know that generally people will do this, and so most likely this will be the outcome, and you can include that into your strategy. You can also include other options, other contingencies into a strategy based on what humans could do, but it's not quite likely. Okay. Natural law is then how the world works. So when you create a plan, when you create a strategy, if you have an effective understanding of how the world works and how things grow, then you can include that into your strategy, and also contingencies, because there's obviously no hard, fast rule for how things grow, but there are general principles that govern growth that can increase your probability. So when you understand human nature and natural law, then your strategies are much more effective. So you need to know how to set strategy, and then you need to know the parameters of what a good strategy would consider. And that's human nature and natural law. When you know those things, you can project a really good strategy into the future. Lastly, in regard to really having the ability to create growth, you have to know communication. And that is communication with people, obviously. If you're going to, set a strategy and accomplish it, you're going to have to interact with people. Nature, that just has to do, natural law just has to do with the system you set up. Does it fight reality, or is it in alignment with reality? Communication, in order to work with people, you have to communicate with them. And so to put an effective strategy in place, good, healthy communication that makes people want to follow you and engage in your vision and engage in your mission, that is very important. And so those are our 5. They'll be in the links, the description below. We'll get all that in there. And I do also have some other follow-up content online. Obviously, I digest a lot of video content through YouTube, and there's some really great how to think types of information I'll also link in there. So with that, let's get into it. That's just the kind of intro, and hopefully we'll keep the rest of them relatively short. First book, I have 10 and then a bonus. I was really trying to keep it to 10. Okay, first book is Mindset, and this is by Carlos Dweck. So this video is how to think. Mindset is the types of mindsets. There are 2 essentially in this book, and it is people who get results and people who don't, people who get where they want in life and people who don't get where they want in life. And it breaks down what those 2 mindsets look like and how to choose the more productive one. And also freeing. Because basically one of them is a victim mentality, where everything happens to you and you have no power over your life. And that is a very, dismal and dreary place to be. So Mindset, book 1. If you understand this, this is really going to start setting a broad, basic foundation for all of the other books to come, because it's all everything else I'm going to give to you fits in sort of a healthy mindset. And you're going to be like, oh, I see things differently. So Mindset. Number 2, falling under Mindset. Also, what am I saying? Okay. These also, interestingly, follow one of the first teachings I give you guys on getting results. And what is that? The first thing is take massive action. The second is, oh gosh, I'm on the spot now. The second is fail more, fail a lot. Third, meet needs, solve problems. And lastly, get feedback. Okay, now all of these kind of hit all of those. However, this book is very much about massive action. This is one of the first business books I ever read. This is The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Awesome book. It's a little bit older now, so some of the technical marketing, it's a marketing book too, but some of the technical know-how in here, like how to put a shopping cart on your website, is a little outdated, but the concepts are super awesome. He's got 80-20 in here. He's got a bunch of different ways to think, how to make things simpler. But all of that is geared to massive action. Get out there, test a bunch of things, find what works, and get it moving. And this was a foundational book in my thinking on how to run businesses that are functional. Okay, so that is a massive action book. This book is called The Lean Startup. This is a very famous book in business and entrepreneurship. This guy, Eric Ries, pioneered the minimum viable product strategy. And the minimum viable product strategy tells you how to most efficiently test ideas or ministries or products or services in the market without bankrupting yourself, and launch these things in a way that makes sense. With that, so this is how to go bare bones with a minimum viable product or service, get it out there, test it. If you don't get results, shut it down and try something else until you get traction. This is huge for ministries because we do big fancy launches. We stick with an idea, whether or not it works, and we don't even know it works because we don't track any kind of results. So this book will address that in a huge way. This is great. Also leads to massive action. You can test way more products and services much faster than you could if you were doing it by yourself. Next. So what was the first one's massive action? Then we've got, what do we say? Fail more. So this is John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell, probably one of my favorite authors, if not one, maybe the favorite. Failing Forward. This talks about your mindset and how to think about failure. If you think about failure like, we'll say 80% of the population, 80-20, right? If you think about failure like 80% of the population, you cannot get results because it is too unbearable to take massive action because you fail so much, and of course that's not a functional way of thinking, but the vast majority of people hold it. I love failing. I'm always looking for ways to fail faster. So, this video might be a fail. I don't really care. Let's do it. Next. Okay, so next is solve problems and meet needs. So we want to have a way to think about getting results. We want to have a way to understand how we solve problems and meet needs. This is one of my favorite books. These are all my favorite books. I'm going to say that 100 times. It's not even fair. This is an amazing book. This really changed my whole outlook with ClickMill. It used to be a long time ago. I mean, I always wanted to reach pastors, but it was, a marketing firm to pay the bills and all this stuff. But I read this and I'm like, dang, there is a bigger purpose here at ClickMill for us to be reaching out and empowering pastors. And from this book is one of the reasons why we started the internship program, because it's not about me. It's about helping the church reach the lost. I mean, so this book is all about how to think about reaching people and meeting their needs and maybe not thinking about ourselves as much. And it's very, very powerful. Next, these are just other books on thinking. I don't have a specific book on feedback. That's more like interpreting analytics. And, we do that in our trainings. But to that end, here are other ones. Amazing book. This is called Essentialism. And it is how to understand which parts of your life, which parts of your business, which parts of your church, whatever it is, what is necessary and how to get rid of everything else. This is sort of an intro to strategy. Okay, this is an introduction. This is strategy light, and it sets a very good foundation for the books on strategy we'll do in another video. Love that book. These are, by the way, these are probably my top favorite books in this section because these are really fundamental. This is follow-up to Essentialism. And this is essentially once you get your whole life down to the most essential things and you get out all the junk, what happens when you still have things that are essential? Lovely. That would be an obnoxious ringtone. When you get your life down to only the essential things and it's still too much, then what do you do? This is how to make the essential things easier and how to think, right? There's a mindset, how to think about the essential things. Now, I'm about a third of the way through this right now. I'm loving it. And I really love his first book, so it's already on the list. But you guys can ask me about this as, if you guys are in calls. Next, How to Think. This book kind of blew my mind. It's a little more technical than the others. This is called Anti-Fragile. It's by a philosopher, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's got a number of very interesting books. I'm very interested to read the rest. Very unique. Anti-Fragile. Most things are fragile and they break when things get hard. Oh, you know what I don't have? Oh, I forgot to get it. That was the first book. All right. When life gets difficult, some things blossom and grow under pressure and stress and different, like, for example, if you put certain bacteria into a pond that's 200 degrees, like crazy hot water, it will grow. Why? Why is it anti-fragile? It actually grows in bad environments. Okay. So some things actually do better in bad circumstances. Certain types of investments grow when the economy is collapsing. What is it about these sorts of things that grow when things are bad? And that's what we want to know, because we want to grow when things are good and we want to grow when things are bad. How do we do that? So that's what this is a book is about. It's about not being fragile, not even about being strong and robust. Like you can take a hit and shrug it off. No, it's about like, when you take a hit and someone punches you, you grow 2 extra arms because you're extra strong, because it's like a hydra, right? Every time you cut off a head, it gets stronger. That is the essence of anti-fragility. So very fascinating book. The implications of that. How do we get stronger in opposition? Next book, Outsiders. Still working on this one, but I know it's a great book. So this is about world-changing CEOs and inventors who saw the world differently. And the basic idea in this book is, if you want to change the status quo, if you want to shake things up and you want to do something that makes a difference, you cannot do it the same way everybody's doing it, right? If 80% of people are doing something and you want to do it better, you cannot do it the way they're doing it. So this is an example, a bunch of examples of, people who've changed the world, who saw it differently. They saw it correctly, right? Because if we're contrarian, if we're operating in a contrarian manner, we don't just do things differently because we're rebelling. We do it differently because we see a different way that is better and more functional, creates more fruit. These guys did it. Great book. 3 more. So I'm going to go backwards right now in my head, because I actually don't have this on me. This is on a different bookshelf somewhere. It is called The Road Less Traveled. I would tell you that actually precedes Mindset, which is the very first one. The Road Less Traveled, very famous book. Got a little bit of weird Freudian psychology stuff in there here and there, but the principles are very accurate. That basically talks and sets the stage for all the thinking that I'm going to teach you guys. And that is basically, life is hard, bad things happen. Most people think that they're somehow unique in their struggles, and I'm not diminishing any difficult things, but people die. We lose our jobs sometimes. Economic catastrophes happen. Whatever the bad things are that happen, we get illnesses or hurt or sick or whatever it is. Bad things happen. We all think we're unique. And the reality is that life is just hard. And the people who are not willing to accept the fact that life is hard develop a victim mindset, which is what that Mindset book is right down here. The very first one I did. And the people who are willing to accept the fact that life is hard, right? And that's what Christ promises us, a hard life, right? He says, when you accept me, you're going to get struggles. You're going to be persecuted. You might die for me. Like, you're going to have a tough life if you choose to be a Christian. And if those things don't happen, you get married, you're going to die to your spouse, because you're going to sacrifice for your spouse. And not only that, you're going to die to your flesh. You're now a slave to God. You were slaves to sin. Now you're a slave to God, and you're going to die to yourself for the rest of your life as you grow in Christ. So that book sets a great frame of mind for the believer. And again, that is The Road Less Traveled. Read that book. That's awesome. Okay. So I guess it's 12 books. Boundaries for Leaders. This is ownership. And there's also a book by Jocko Willink I would pair with this, called Extreme Ownership. He was a former Navy SEAL. This is ownership. And basically, ownership is the most uncomfortable thing that you can do, because if something isn't working, it's your fault, right? For example, with ClickMill, and you guys know this because anytime you guys make a mistake, I give you more training. I don't come down on you and be all upset and be like, oh, I've told you this 37 times. If I told you 37 times and you still didn't get it right, and I know you're trying hard because I only bring people in that I know are going to try hard, I didn't teach it well. So I need to teach it better. That's my fault, right? If my kids are crazy, that's my fault. If my wife is upset because the kids are crazy, that's my fault, right? I need to implement better, whatever it is that needs to happen in the family to get those things under control. I'm at the top. It's my fault. I'm not going to make excuses and put it off on someone else. And that is very difficult because nobody wants to be at fault. But the great thing is when you do it, it gives you control over your whole life, right? Now, obviously, You're not at fault for, the president is, or there are things that are obviously exceptions, but within your sphere of influence, if it's not working right, it's your fault. And when you think that way, you can fix anything because now you have the power to do it. Another great book on thinking is, sorry guys, I'm a little sick today, The Compound Effect. A lot of people think in terms of linear growth. So this is more like on a mental model. They think in terms of linear growth, like we're going to go up slowly over time, like especially when we, this compound effect has to do with exponential growth. Okay. So if you can do something and plan strategically something that grows exponentially, you're not going to be in the same league as everybody else who's grinding away 40 hours a week forever. And there are, you guys are going to, this book list is going to be forever. Another great one here that talks about that. And you guys will see some of my strategy in here. So I'm giving away the game, Your Next 5 Moves. Great book on, I shouldn't have given this away because this is in the next video. The Next 5 Moves, Master the Art of Business Strategy. This is in the next video. So you didn't hear this one. Anyway, that is my list of books. For how to think. That is a great intro. Again, there are some other YouTube videos on how I did put those in order. I would read them as well, but I will include the YouTube videos and series that I would recommend that you watch. There's another guy on YouTube. He actually removed all of his YouTube content. I would really recommend you go hunt this stuff down and download it. I think it's on Spotify. I think there's still 75 hours of his content. When he had 200 hours of content, his name is Sam Ovens, brilliant business consultant who made $20 million on a course in 1 year. So in terms of fruit and results, brilliant business consultant. All he talks about is mental models. And basically he spent a decade studying billionaires and how they think and how it's different from other people. And he just breaks it down and says, here's how you think to get the most results. And he took all of his 200 hours of content, which I watched off of YouTube, and I think he still has 75 hours on Spotify. So you check that out. You'll have to find that one by yourself. I recommend downloading it all if you can and saving it somewhere, because sooner or later he'll get around to taking that down. And, because he does consulting for like $50,000 a day or something insane. So fill your brain with that. And then there's a couple YouTube channels, and I'll link to those in the description. Anyway, love you guys. Let's keep going. Let's learn how to help ministry leaders reach the world more effectively. And I want you, because I believe you are a future ministry leader, I want you to learn how to reach the world more effectively. Hopefully we can all go out from here at ClickMill and make a difference for the kingdom. All right, we'll get into strategic thinking next. We'll see you there. God bless.